Hey everyone, like I said, I'm doing an 11-day fast, and I'm going to plan on making recordings throughout this fast. Likely not every day. It's already actually on day 3 right now as I'm recording this, but I'll make recordings as, I want to give updates and talk about things, and then just group them together and post a video once I'm done. But I'm doing an 11-day water fast as a type 1 diabetic, and I'm not recommending anything. All I'm doing is sharing my experience. So if you are a type 1 diabetic and you've never done it, please do your own research and take the precautions necessary if there are any precautions. I personally think it's pretty simple. But just to give a little bit of history, I've been fasting pretty consistently, and likely a little bit overboard for the past 5 years. My first fast ever was a 9-day water fast, and that was 5 years ago, pretty much. It was in October of 2019. And just to give you an idea of the progress so far as insulin production goes. So that first 9-day fast, I had to take insulin every day throughout the entire fast. Even the last few days, each day it was maybe only 2 or 3 units, but I still had to take insulin to keep my blood sugar in a decent range. Then, as I fasted more and more, and I also was doing the keto diet for most of 2020 or all of 2020 and a lot of 2021. So that plays an impact as far as how much insulin you need during the fast, just because you just don't have you're not taking in much carbohydrates anyways. But over the course of the next few years after that first fast, I started to notice that I could, deeper into a longer fast, I could stop taking insulin. And not only that, when I refed, I could go maybe a day or two without taking insulin, with even eating some carbs, like fruit, like maybe 50 grams of carbs, possibly 100. And my blood sugar would go a little bit high, maybe 160, 170, and it would fall back down. Now, I'm not saying that at that time, or I do believe I was able to produce insulin at that time, or at least start to, but there could be other factors at play as far as, when you're depleted of glucose, things get filled up. Your liver gets, glycogen storage refilled, basically. All of your organs they don't require insulin. So that could play an impact that any glucose you have in your bloodstream could go to the organs, and your blood sugar could lower that way. So I don't know exactly how much insulin I was making at that time, but regardless, it doesn't really matter if, sure, maybe I regenerated beta cells, but as a type 1 diabetic, it doesn't really matter if your immune system is just going to kill them off again, right? So that was a good 3 years of fasting and not really getting much further than just a couple days of not needing insulin. And during those days, I didn't feel great either. So that lasted a while. Now, I've discussed in other videos how I had a pretty big awakening type experience a couple years ago, which led to mucus release with me. And so since then, I've been seeing a lot more progress. I've shared my C peptide has gone up, and specifically with fasting, earlier in the fast, I can stop taking insulin. And right now, I'm on day 3, and I haven't had to take any insulin today. And the last shot of insulin I took was yesterday at noon, and my blood sugar has been fine all day. And I'll go into the details of these first 3 days in a little bit. But in the past, certainly before 2 years ago, when I had that significant impact to my life, whenever I fasted, I would pretty much, for the most part, I mean, at least early on in my fast, I would have to take possibly 20 units of insulin that first day, or maybe 15 to 20 units. But then it pretty much became pretty consistent that it would be around 15 units the first day of a fast, 10 or so units the second day, around 5, maybe a little bit more on the third day, and then 4, 5, 6, still a few units. It would slowly, gradually go down. So I just want you to keep in mind, if you are a type 1 diabetic, that's how I started. That's what I started with. And so what I'm explaining now, don't think you can go into it if you do your first fast that you can stop taking insulin within a couple days. Please use your own judgment if you decide to do that. And again, not recommending anything. I'm really just sharing my story here. So in regards to the fast I'm doing, it's just a pure water fast. I do take electrolytes, but I take those every day anyways. It's just like these flavorless sea mineral, like trace mineral type electrolytes. I also take magnesium pretty consistently, really over the past 5 years. I've been slacking off a little bit here and there, but during a fast, it's very important, at least for me, to take magnesium. I take a pretty high dose amount for the first few days, so I still am now, just to keep things moving. When you start a fast, when you eat food, I'm pretty sure it sends like signals down into your intestines to move things along because new food's coming in. So when you stop, your intestines pretty much hold on to what it has, and maybe it's trying to pull as many nutrients as it can out of it. I'm not sure, but it doesn't really flow if you stop eating. So for me, and that gives you, it doesn't really feel great to have things sitting in there for forever. It may eventually pass, but probably not everything. So for me, I always take a decent amount of magnesium just to keep things going. Plus, it helps your muscles relax. It helps you sleep a little bit more, even though sleep can definitely still be a struggle. I've definitely been struggling with sleep these first few days at least, but it's still very helpful to take magnesium. So I do that, and then as I get deeper into the fast, I'll slow down with that. And on top of just removing food, not eating, I'm also, for this specific fast, I'm removing all social media, not watching a single thing on TV, not watching news. And actually, it dawned on me that we have the election coming up. And when I thought of that, I seriously got like chills of excitement in my body, knowing that I'm not going to know what's happening because I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not going to watch anything. I'm not going to read any news, nothing. I'm going completely cold turkey on anything media related, and I will have no clue what's happening. So it's really funny to me, but it seriously sent like a shock of excitement. Like I don't know why. That must just be my body telling me it's going to be a good thing to do. But and so if some like crazy chaos happens, I will be oblivious to it all. But who knows? Obviously, I'm going to be posting this after everything's done, so maybe I'll go smoothly. Who knows? But this is really going to be the first long fast where I've cut out all that extra stuff. And so far it's been pretty difficult these 3 days, but I'm kind of getting to a point I'll discuss later where I'm really feeling the benefit of it. Previously, when I did fast, I would just give myself the excuse to be lazy, which is fine. I mean, your body wants to rest; it needs to rest during that time, this time, so that's no problem at all. But I would just distract myself with just laying on the couch, laying in bed, watching TV, watching YouTube, stuff like that, just to pass the time. So I don't have that as a crutch anymore, and I'll get into how I'm feeling with that so far. Well, I guess I'll just start now with that and talk about these 3 days. It's tough because not eating is an event. I pretty much cook, I would say 90% of my meals. I enjoy cooking, so it takes time. It's something to do. It's fun to do. It's fun to eat, of course. So when you remove that completely, you free up a lot of time, and you feel like you need to replace it with something. And so it's a struggle when I don't have those distractions like TV or social media to kind of waste my time really. So I've been fighting through that. It's been pretty difficult, and but it has led to obviously doing the things I want to do that I've had a block with, specifically art. I've been drawing every day, trying to get better with that. Reading, of course, that's what I'm falling back to now. And then today, for example, it's a Sunday. I had my entire day open, and I ended up doing something that I wouldn't normally do. And I just went to like a nearby natural spring that's in my area that I have never gone to before, and just took some time there just to relax and kind of be in nature. And it's not that I don't ever do things like that, but I did it today specifically because I have nothing else to do. So it's it's that can be considered bad as far as like having to fill up my time. I could just sit here and meditate all day, but I of course don't want to do that. But I am meditating a lot more though. And anyway, so yeah, I went to a natural spring. It was really nice just kind of ground and just be in nature. And I made some I took some videos. I made some friends with some fish and turtles. I'll likely use those videos as a background to this video, just kind of have them on a loop. But yeah, so it's going well. I'm kind of like the fact that it takes me out of my comfort as far as all those distractions and just makes me do something. It's just new. It's just really nice, and I'm kind of. It's almost like you have that withdrawal effect, right? Like you feel withdrawal with not having something to replace this time with. And this is the first time I've ever fasted and not replaced the boredom that comes from not simply not eating. There's a huge boredom that comes in, and so that's where you replace it with social media, TV, YouTube, whatever. And so this is the first time I'm just kind of cutting it all out. And it's been difficult, and I'm sure it'll still be difficult, but I'm today was the first time where I'm kind of seeing the impact of it, and I'm hoping that that continues. So I'll share the results that I've seen for these first 3 days. And for anybody who's new to listening to me and hasn't watched my other videos, when I refer to how much insulin I'm taking here, I'm referring to Novolin R insulin only. That's the only insulin I take, and that insulin is technically a short-acting insulin, but it does take longer than the bolus type insulin that most people take, such as Novolog. Novolin R peaks between 1.5 and 3.5 hours. It doesn't really start working until maybe 30 minutes after you inject it, and then its duration lasts approximately 8 hours. So just keep that in mind when I state how much insulin I'm taking. That is the only insulin that I take. I don't take any basal insulin or background insulin. Novolin R is it. Okay, so for the results, I stopped eating at 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. on October 31st. I had a bunch of fruit then, and I think I took 5 units at around 9 o'clock for the fruit that I ate. Over the course of that day, I had roughly 200 carbs. And I'm only mentioning this because if you eat a lot of carbs, it'll impact your first day of the fast because there's still some digestion going on. But so 200 is a decent amount. So that it's not like I was like a keto diet leading up to this fast. I ate a decent amount of carbs every day leading up to it. So in the morning of November 1st at 5 a.m., I woke up and my blood sugar was 89, and I took 3 units of insulin, mainly because of the dawn effect, and uh, also I was going to do yoga at 6 a.m. And whenever you exercise, you're going to have some glycogen release, so you'll need some insulin for that. Did my yoga at 6 a.m. I followed that by with a cold plunge and just red light therapy bed. And cold plunges supposedly increase your blood sugar. I personally haven't. I've been doing it 3 months now. I haven't really noticed any sort of trend. And it's the people who've I've seen just on online saying that they're not diabetics and they're fit, very healthy people saying that it increases their blood sugar like up to like 150, 160 when after a cold plunge. I haven't noticed that though. So who knows? But maybe it does. So after that, I got home at around 8:30, and my blood sugar was 115. And then I kind of got distracted with work. It got a little busy, and I should have taken insulin a little bit earlier, but waited till noon, and I tested my blood sugar then, and it increased to 159. So it was a bit high. So I took 2 units then, and I tested my blood sugar a few times between noon and 5, and it pretty much stayed right around 120. And then I took 1 unit of insulin at 5 p.m., and I did another yoga class at 5:30. And when I got back at 7:30, it was 107, my blood sugar. It was 101 at 9 p.m. And that was the last time I tested it for that day. And I did not take any more insulin for that day either. When I woke up the following day on a Saturday at 8 a.m., it was my blood sugar was 106. At 9 a.m., it increased to 135, and I hadn't taken any insulin yet. I was planning on, or I was going to another yoga class at 9:30. So I figured it would be best I should take some insulin because it did increase a bit. So I took just 1 unit. Probably should have took more, as you'll see, but I took 1 unit, went to yoga, also followed that up by sauna, cold plunge, red light therapy, and got back at around noon, tested my blood sugar, and it was at 168. So at that point at noon, I took 2 units of insulin, and then the remainder of the day, it was good. At 5 p.m., it was 91. At 8 p.m., it was 85. And that was the last time I tested on the 2nd. And like I said, I took a shot of insulin at noon that day of 2 units, and that was my last shot of insulin I took during that day. And going into today, I didn't need to take any insulin. So into the 3rd, I woke up at 8 a.m. I decided today, or 8 a.m., my blood sugar was 993. And I decided today I'm just gonna relax, not gonna do any workout because I was pretty much planning already based on the latter part of how the second day went that I will not need insulin today, and that's how it went. At 10:45, it was 115. At 1 o'clock, it was 118. At 3 o'clock, it was 103. At 5:30, it was 92, and right now it's 6 p.m. on the 3rd on Sunday. So I haven't done the full day yet. It's not that late yet, but I anticipate, of course, not having the way my blood sugars have been going all day. I don't see myself needing to take any insulin, and honestly, I don't see myself needing to take insulin for the remainder of this 11-day fast. And this will be the first time that I could stop this early during this long of a fast and not have to take insulin for this long of a period, if this continues. And for comparison, I did an 11-day fast last year as well. Same thing, November 1st through November 11th. And you can check out my other, I think my synchronicity video if you're curious about why I chose those dates and numbers. But just for comparison, that fast, that was a long period of time where I didn't have to take insulin too. But just to show the difference between then and now, on the first day of that fast, I took 15 units of insulin. The second day, I took 6. And then the third day, I had to take 9. So that was a little backwards. That was interesting. I kind of forgot about that, but I have a tracking sheet here for the past year or so that I have for record. So comparing that to this fast, I only took 6 units the first day and 3 the second and none the third, and presumably none for the rest of the time here. So that is obviously an improvement. That to me means I'm producing more insulin and I have beta cells that are hopefully staying alive. They're not just getting killed off. And so that's definitely looking promising for me. Now, the one thing I am slightly unsure about is if I do work out, I think I'm planning on doing a yoga class in the morning on Tuesday. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. I feel currently okay. Today, I kind of lacked energy and I definitely didn't want to work out at all. And so I'm curious if that will increase my blood sugar. And even if it does, I'm willing to let it go up as long as it doesn't go too high, and just see if my body can produce the insulin needed to bring it back down, and just see how long that takes. One point to make there, though, is obviously during a fast, you're producing a lot of ketones, which are good. There's nothing wrong with having ketones. They're good for you. You know, when you don't have the glucose coming in. So, but as a type 1 diabetic, if you're fasting and your ketones are high, you need to make sure that your blood sugar doesn't go up, because then that obviously is ketoacidosis and your blood turns very acidic. Of course, we all know that's not very good. So that's one thing. I'm nervous about doing this, test as far as not taking any insulin. I feel pretty confident it's at least not going to go crazy high. And even if it does, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not saying anybody should do this, but I'll be okay. So yeah, that's the synopsis of the first 3 days of this fast, and the next time you hear me here, it'll likely be at least a couple days later. Right. Right. It's November 5th at 9 p.m., so officially 5 days into the fast, and I'm feeling pretty good. And I'll get into that later. It's also election night, and I'm gonna have to actually put in even more effort to not know the results and not hear anything or if there's any chaos going on because I figured, I used to be political and I might have an old friend text me something about it, so I'm gonna have to like avoid those. I'm gonna have to not check my emails because you get all those dumb emails about stuff. Also, I work technically. I was supposed to go on a business trip this week, and I backed out mainly because I'm doing this fast, and I'm awkward enough socially. I didn't want to go and like we go out to lunch, go out to dinner, have drinks. I didn't want to go out there and not eat or drink and just sit there and be weird. So I backed out of that trip, but we are still, they are still getting together, and I'm just going to kind of join in over the phone. And I would have to guess something. It's very possible that, a discussion might come up about what's going on. So I'm hoping not. I'm hoping they don't do that and they don't spoil anything. But yeah, so it's probably going to be tougher than I thought. But anyways, I'm just going to get right into what has occurred over the past couple days with insulin and blood sugar, and I have not had to take any insulin still. And again, I'm of course planning on that for the rest of the fast. I did exercise, but I'll get into the details there. Carrying on from where I stopped last on when I was recording on the 3rd, I said my blood sugar was 92 at around 5:30. I tested it two more times that night at 9 p.m. It went up to 108, and then at 10:30 p.m. it went down. It was down to 86, and then went to bed the next morning. Woke up at 7:30. It was 89. At 10:30 a.m. it was 100. At noon it was 115. Then I went and did sauna and cold plunge. When I got back at 1:11 p.m. it was 114. So not really any change. Again, I don't really see much change with the cold plunges. So yeah, I guess maybe it affects some people. And even the ones that it does affect, it's really just short term. I'm pretty sure on the long term it's beneficial for blood sugar, but I'm not necessarily making that claim. That's just what I've heard. Then later in the day, 5 p.m., it was 98. Then I wanted to kind of test working out, and I didn't really work out that much. I lifted weights for, I did, I think, a total of 6 sets, and then I jumped around on the rebounder, that a little trampoline, to get my blood flowing a little bit. And right after that, my blood sugar went up, it increased to 127. And at around 7 p.m., it was 118. 8 p.m., it was 102. 10 p.m., it was 86. And now it's pretty interesting the way it decreased there, just between my blood sugar at 6 p.m., it was at 127, and at 10 p.m., it was at 86. And so that's 41, a drop of 41, what is it, milligrams per deciliter in blood sugar. And I think that what I hear with that is common is you can take 1 unit of insulin to decrease your blood sugar by 50. And if I go back to was it my last video? The video where I shared the insulin equivalent to C-peptide. So with a C-peptide of zero point 0.6, my logic tells me that I'm able to produce 6 units of insulin over a 24-hour period. And that kind of equates to this. So this was a 4 hour period, and that equates to 1 unit of insulin every 4 hours. So it's roughly that. It didn't go down by 50, but 41. So um, just another kind of supporting factor of at least that insulin equivalent to C-peptide that I put together. So it kind of supports that a little bit. However, the next day it did not do that, so I'll just share the results here. So I actually woke up pretty early at 4 a.m. And tested my blood sugar was 85. Couldn't really go back to sleep, but I did go to a yoga class at 7:30, and it wasn't that bad. I was kind of worried how I'd be able to handle it, but I was able to do okay with it. I forgot to test my blood sugar right before it, but I came back when I came back, it did go up. My blood sugar was at 126 when I basically right after the yoga, and that was at 9 a.m. when I tested that. Then at 10 a.m. it was up to 133. Then at 11 a.m. 119. Noon it was 121. 1 p.m. it was also 121. 2 p.m. it was 105. 5 p.m. it was also 105. And then finally at 7 p.m. it was 82. Then at 9 p.m. it was 97. And then that's basically right before I started recording this. So I just want to share my thoughts on that because I've had experiences like that for the past 5 years going through this healing process, and I've noticed this over and over again, and it just leads me to believe myself that it's not as simple as the fact that our beta cells are dead, right? I think there's just more to it. I think it's not that simple from a type 1 diabetic perspective. And I can't, like, there's of course so many things at play that impact blood sugar, but I've just noticed it over and over again. Just where my blood sugar will just hang out at a higher level than someone without type 1 diabetes. For example, someone who's fasting, maybe their blood sugar will go up slightly if they work out, but it would drop pretty quickly, and it would be in that range of 70 to 90, and it would generally stay in that range. At least that's my assumption. That's what I hear for all the time, right? Like it would, if you're fasting, especially 5 days into a fast, there's no way your blood sugar will be range for a non-diabetic. They wouldn't have blood sugars hanging around 120 all day, no matter what. And the fact that it just kind of sits there and doesn't increase, so I am producing insulin, that's something I've shown support for, but it doesn't go down to the standard level between 70 and 90. And I've had other instances where when I tried not taking insulin after a fast, where when I refeed for a couple of days, my blood sugar goes higher than it should, like around 150, 160, but it doesn't go as high as it would if I truly wasn't producing insulin, but it just stays there for way too long, and it does it over and over. And now I guess maybe I'm not making sense. I obviously this doesn't mean what I'm saying. It's not like I can prove that it means that there's more to it than just dead beta cells. But I just have this gut feeling that there is something more to it. That maybe the beta cells are just idle. Maybe the signaling is messed up. So certain blood sugars won't trigger won't send signals to the beta cells to produce insulin. I have no idea. But I do know, and at least I've heard that there's different theories out there too. It's not like I'm pretty sure the standard consensus is that the beta cells are killed off by the immune system. I'm not saying anything against that. I agree with that. I just feel like there's more to it than just that. So that's just kind of a little rant there. I don't know if I made sense, but I just feel like there's more to it. That's all I'm trying to say. But that's it as far as the blood sugar and insulin. I do feel really good. I'm still taking magnesium, drinking water. I did do an Epsom salt bath just a little bit ago. That definitely is also helpful to just get a little magnesium in you a different way, and it definitely helps me with sleep at night. So yeah, I'm feeling good. Doing well with the social media fast as well, and TV fast. We'll see how I do with avoiding any news about the election, but I'll keep you posted. I'll probably be back on here in a couple days, few days. All right, thanks. Okay, it's November 9th at 8 p.m., so it's been 4 days since I last spoke, and the election did get spoiled for me today. I overheard someone talking, so that's that. That said, I had a very strong feeling prior to that, just seeing mainly just the market. So I kind of had a feeling anyways, but so that's that. But going on to these past 4 days of the fast, overall, I felt really good. Yesterday was a struggle. Not really physically. Physically, I don't really. The hunger isn't there. There's no like physical hunger. It's still just the boredom, wanting to eat still, just to just to do something, and my taste buds get activated. I can just imagine how good things are going to taste. And so yesterday, that's where the struggle was. Yesterday, one, I was really lazy. I ended up going online, didn't go on the social media, didn't do anything like that, but I did go on my computer online, and I was looking up recipes after recipe after recipe. And I went out, I bought, like, they say don't grocery shop when you're hungry. Well, don't grocery shop when you're on day 8 of a fast either. So I don't know, I bought so much food. I bought so much damn food that'll last me, like, I think over a month at least. Just online and Costco grocery stores. It was crazy. I kind of went a little insane. But I have all these recipes that I'm planning on making, like, within, like, pretty quickly after I'm done the fast. So that happened. But then today I felt really at ease. I woke up feeling amazing and not really having that problem anymore. And so, not saying that all that food's gotta go to waste, but it's certainly not. I'm still definitely excited to eat. But that was an interesting day yesterday. It was really kind of bugging me. It was weird because, again, I'm not hungry. Real, like, sure, there's hunger, but like, that wasn't the main motivation. It was just this. I think it's just mental. It's just mental wanting to eat, and then looking up recipes again, just as a distraction to distract me from doing other stuff that I should be doing, like drawing, reading. That said, today, actually, it was actually at the end of the night yesterday. I actually started feeling a lot better then, so maybe I just had to get it out of my system. But I went on this, like, cleaning rampage for about an hour right before I went to bed. And then today I've been cleaning like crazy. I've been reading, I've been drawing, so it's been a really nice day for me. But I won't waste any more time. I'll just get right into the blood sugars that I've had. I did not have to take any insulin as expected, but so here we go. And during this time, the past 4 days, I really haven't worked out much. Nothing too strenuous. I've jumped on the rebounder here and there just to get my blood flowing. I've done push-ups here and there, but nothing too crazy. But so starting on the 6th at 3 a.m., I just woke up in the middle of the night, tested my blood sugar. It was 87. Then at 9:30, it was 102. 2 p.m., it was 113. 4:30 p.m., it was 108. 7 p.m., it was 94. And that was the last time I tested my blood sugar that day. I think I did a meditation and really just fell asleep during it pretty early that night. The next day at 7 a.m. on the 7th, I was 89. 10:30 a.m., 95. 2:30 p.m., 101. 5 p.m., 95. 10 p.m., 85. Then the next day on the 8th at 6 a.m., I was 90. 9 a.m., 110. 11:30 a.m., 118. 2 p.m., 100. 9 p.m., 76. 10:30 p.m., 86. Now, before I get on today, I do want to kind of clarify. I listened back to what I said about my issues with my blood sugars just kind of staying at the higher range. So I think this kind of what the blood sugars I just ran through just kind of paints the picture of what I'm saying. So hopefully I can be a little more clear. So obviously this is days 6 through 8 of a fast, and I know that my body can produce more than enough insulin at this point to keep my blood sugars in the normal range of which should be between 70 and 90. However, except for just at 9 p.m. on the 8th, I got down to 76. If I take that out of there, my range for those 3 days was 87 to 118. So and I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about these blood sugars. I'm just questioning why I'm ranging there compared to ranging at from 70 to 90, because it only takes a fraction of a unit of insulin for me to produce to get down to 70 to 90 and just stay there. So that's where I'm confused. That's where I don't necessarily think it's just the fact that I don't have enough beta cells to produce the insulin. I just think there's a signaling disconnect there. But who knows? I'm just pointing it out in case maybe sometime in the future something comes out. So, okay, so now on to the 9th, which is today. At 6 a.m., I was 79. At 11 a.m., I was 96. At 3:30 p.m., I was 78. And at 7 p.m., I was 84. So today was pretty much in that range, in the 70 to 90 range for the most part. Why it took me 9 days to get there, I'm not really sure, but that's good at least. But still, those prior 3 days just doesn't make sense to me because I know I have the ability to produce enough insulin to stay down there. So who knows? So that's that. I'm just going to keep this one short. The next time I come on here and record, it'll probably be after I'm done the fast. I'm going to wait until the 12th, and just so I can have something to talk about as far as the refeeding and where my blood sugars go during that, and specifically what I'm refeeding with. There's back and forth on that all the time. I'm not as with pretty much anything. I'm kind of do what you want to do, but I'll get into that next time. All right, see ya. Okay, it's actually November 14th at 9 p.m. right now. So it's been a while, and I have a decent amount to share here. So I'll get right into it. First off, days 10 and 11 of the fast were great. I felt the best probably those 2 days during then compared to the previous nine. And honestly, I would have continued even, but I had lost too much weight already at that point, and I really can't really afford to lose much more. So I weighed in the night before the fast, and I was at 162.8. And the very end of the fast, I was down to 144.8. So 18 pounds, which I didn't really have to lose. Now, a majority of that's water weight, and a lot of the weight comes from the stuff in your gut that is fully released. And just quickly to say that this fast, I was releasing stuff the entire fast, and it wasn't just the normal. I mean, it was liquid. Like, of course, you're drinking water, you're taking magnesium. It'll generally pass through. The water will go through and come out. But they were very solid particles the whole way through day 11, which I've never experienced before. Not, at least not this consistently and this much. So I really did. I really had a good clearing there. Sorry, I know that might be a little TMI, but it was something very noticeable, and I definitely felt the impact of that. It was actually really 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 good feeling. And after just a few days of eating, I'm already back up to 155. So it's from a fat perspective, it's not, you don't lose that much weight. They say a half a pound per 2,000 calories. So if you eat a 2,000 calorie diet and take that out, technically that's it. But that's only if you're still as active as you were when you were eating, which you're not. So I definitely assume it's definitely under a half a pound a day. On top of that, you're not digesting anything, and that burns a lot of calories, so that makes it even less. So who knows? But that's not the point of any of this, so it doesn't really matter. So let me just quickly cover the blood sugars on days 10 and 11. And I, of course, also did not have to take any insulin at all on these last 2 days. 8 a.m. on the 10th, I was 77. Noon, I was at 102. 2:30 p.m. 98. 4:30 p.m. 89. 9:30 p.m. 88. Then 7 a.m. on the 11th, 11/11. I hope everybody had a good 11/11 day. I was 83. 11:30 a.m. 108. 2 p.m. 97, 6:30 p.m. 88, 10 p.m. 84, and pretty much at midnight I was at 81, and I actually started eating. So I'll get into that now. So basically, once it hit midnight on the 11th day, so into the 12th, I did have some bone broth, and then what else? Kimchi, and then some macadamia nuts, and then pretty much went to bed. I woke up, had some eggs and kimchi with the I've never heard of that before, but again, I was looking up all these recipes and I had this big jug of kimchi, so I decided to make eggs with kimchi and actually goat cheese. It was really really good. That said, I've had it for a couple days. It's very very has a very strong flavor, so it's not an everyday thing for me, but it was pretty delicious. Then so people say you have to ease into it. I'm not saying anything here. I don't. I have no issues. My digestion works perfectly fine. I've never had any issues. Technically, for me, easing into it is starting off with bone broth, and that's all I really need to do. Other people, you read things online saying, oh, like you'll go to the hospital if you don't start out with juice for a couple days and then eventually work up to fruit. Like it's just for me, that's ridiculous. I'm not saying that there can't be any serious issues if you just start eating like I do. All I'm saying is that it's not the case for everybody and it's not for me. So don't, do what you think is best for yourself. Now, over the course of that entire day on the 12th, I had roughly 2,600 calories, and I didn't have any steak that day, but I did have fish, eggs for protein. Oh, I had sardines in kind of a salad. I had a lot of vegetable type stuff, a lot of pickled things. I had the kimchi, I had olives, just a mix of things. But then a couple avocados and definitely a few servings of macadamia nuts, and it totaled 2,600 calories. Felt great, and the total net carbs I ate came to 20. So not many carbs at all. It was essentially pretty much a keto diet. It was like I think it was like 60% fat out of the calories, and so it went along those lines. Not necessarily intentionally, but I did intentionally not want to eat too many carbs. But I got through that entire day without taking any insulin, which is really good because if that were just a normal day, I eat 2,600 carbs. Doesn't really matter, or sorry, I eat 2,600 calories. It doesn't really matter that you had only 20 carbs. You're going to need a decent amount of insulin for that much food. I would say, would still have to take around 15 to 20 units to cover that over the course of the day. So not having to take any and my blood sugar staying within a pretty good range, and I'll go through them right now. 7 a.m. it was 92, 10 a.m. 132, 11:30 a.m. 130, 1 p.m. 141, 2 p.m. 133, 3:30 p.m. 128, 5 p.m. 118, 6 p.m. 127, 7 p.m. 120, 9 p.m. 110, 11 p.m. 104. And then I woke up kind of early on the 13th at 5 a.m. and my blood sugar was 94. And I also did not have to take insulin on the 13th for that entire day. And I ate similar to the previous day. I did actually have sirloin, but outside of that, had a lot of the pickled stuff, kimchi, had the same eggs, goat cheese, and kimchi in the morning. And in total, I had 2,300 calories, and the net carbs, meaning carbs subtracting all the fiber, because if total carbs based on all the vegetables and stuff I was eating would definitely be much higher, but the net carbs I ate were only 15 grams. So on the 13th at 5 a.m. it was 94, 9 a.m. 134, 11 a.m. 164. Now I was working this day, and this was directly after I had to give an hour-long training, and it wasn't something I was overly nervous about, but any time where I have to speak for an hour, my anxiety goes up, and my blood sugar will get high regardless of what's going on. So that for me explains this spike in my blood sugar. I tested this basically right after I finished that training. So it was 164 at 11 a.m. 12 at noon it was 138, so it went back down. At 12:30 it was 142, around the same thing. 2 p.m. it was 146. 3 p.m. it was 151. 4 p.m. 142. 5:45 p.m. 125. 6:30 p.m. 126. 8 p.m. 115, 10 p.m. 129, 11 p.m. 148. So those aren't great blood sugars, but they're good. They're good for not having for a type 1 diabetic, not taking any insulin and having 2 days of above 2,000 calories worth of food. That's very, very good. I'm extremely happy with that. But the fact that it was higher than normal, than a non-diabetic, but it didn't really go anything too crazy, right? Like obviously my body's producing insulin to keep it in a range, in a decent range, but not the perfect range. Like I said before, and I've referenced this before in the same video and when I was talking about it, I've seen this so often where my blood sugar just hangs out at these higher than they should be, and they don't go higher. So I'm my body's able to produce the insulin to keep it there, but it just doesn't produce just that little bit extra to keep it in the more acceptable range. And so that's the only thing, the only reason I'm bringing that up, as far as there could be something else to it as far as signaling goes, not just the fact that I'm not producing enough insulin. Now, I understand it could just flat out be that, but I just see it consistently throughout these past 5 years that it occurs over and over again. So that's the only reason I think that. Now for today, I decided not to see how long I could go. Because I also want to eat carbs. I ate more fruit today. So I decided just to start taking insulin again. And over the course of the day, I won't go into the details. This is getting long enough. I took 15 total units of insulin and had 150 carbs, mostly fruit, and my blood sugars have been fine. And so that 15 units in total insulin, so I don't take any background insulin, that's pretty good for me for 150 carbs. And sorry, that's net carbs. So officially, this made it 11 full days of not having to inject any insulin as a type 1 diabetic. And technically, it's almost close to 12 days, because on November 2nd, my last shot of insulin, I believe I said it was around noon, and my next shot of insulin was the 14th. I think it was around 10 a.m. this morning that I took it. So it was almost 12 days. So I feel very good about that. But aside from the physical fasting, I have had a very wonderful past few days that I just want to share a little bit about here. So if you're still with me on this, I'm just going to end this with some weirder stuff here. And I'm assuming people who are listening to this are likely type 1 diabetics, may not be into the spiritual side of things, but I'm going to throw that in here because it's extremely impactful to me, and these last 3 days were just another thing. So on 11/11, like that's I've explained before, that's a huge number for me. I do a sort of activation. I've been doing the same one over the past few years. This one that I did on 11/11 was, I felt it. I felt this one stronger than I've ever felt one before, and it's one of those things where during the activation, it was a online group thing, and the moment, there's a part early on, maybe 20 minutes into it, where we placed our hands on our heart. When we did that, I felt so much power go into the heart. It was crazy. And the connection was lost. I didn't even know the connection was lost because I was so focused on the feeling that happened. It was something beyond normal that I would normally feel. It was very, very strong. And I just kind of sat there for probably close to 5 minutes before even realizing that the connection went out. I thought the person who was leading the session was just pausing for everybody, but it got disconnected pretty much immediately when everybody put their hands on their hearts. So, and the fact that it got disconnected and I felt that strong of a feeling is pretty special. And when I say disconnected, I mean for everybody. Everybody, the whole thing got disconnected, not just disconnected personally on my end, and I had to reconnect. It happened across the board. And now, like I've said before, anytime I get in touch with my emotions, the spiritual side, and focus on that, I have an even heavier release of mucus, okay? And that happened yet again. Now, you could say it was because I started eating again and it did it, but like I said, I've been fasting. The past 2 years, I've experienced this mucus, and when I refeed after a fast, I've never noticed this much mucus come out. Now, during this entire 11-day fast, mucus was consistent, and I have pictures showing that. I won't show them here, but I have them, which I'll post probably all pictures at some point in the future. However, I will post the pictures of the mucus directly after the 11th, when I ended the fast, started eating again. It was basically when I started eating again, and it was right after that activation that I had. So I'm showing now, I think, 6 pictures of mucus that I released on the 12th and 13th. And I don't know if the pictures will actually show how big they are, or if you can actually see that, but these were like gobs of mucus that came out. And they're not that gross, they're pretty clear, so hopefully you're not too disgusted. But this was crazy amounts. So it just yet another case of when these activations occur and you get in touch with your spiritual side. For me, this is what happens, and I get to see the physical proof, which I'm just so blown away by each time. This is the craziest and fascinating and funniest thing that has happened to me. I like it. It's crazy to me. It makes me laugh, but I don't really know what to say at this point. But it's just funny. I'm really excited to just continue to do this. Okay, now for the second thing. This is kind of weird, and oh, it is weird, but it's funny because so I had gone through something earlier this year, which was kind of funny. I haven't mentioned this before. The thing wasn't funny. It was very sad for me. It was back in April-ish, and the following day I had what appeared to me to be a pimple on my third eye, and it was huge, and it felt like a pimple. Like it was so like but I also felt a lot of pressure there in my head. It was right on my third eye. Huge pimple, and it was there all day the following day after something occurred. And it was horrible. It was crazy. It was so big and so sensitive to the touch. And then I was like, "Oh, that's a crazy pimple," but there was no like gross whitehead or anything. It was just this very big red bump, huge, like just very, very big. And then the following day, completely gone, as if there was nothing ever there before. So I'm just bringing that up because now this time, it was actually when I started eating on the 12th, I got this same big bump, but on the top of my head. So on my crown chakra, basically, this huge red bump, again, very sensitive, right on the top of my head. And now it's gone. It just went away. So that's just, whatever you want to make of that, whatever. I don't know why that's happening. The other thing is, my ears were in so much pain. I've never experienced. I looked this up to see if there was like a side effect from fasting, but I've fasted so much over the past 5 years and have done a lot of very long fasts, but never experienced anything like this before. And when I Google it, I haven't found anything that would say that this would ever be a side effect. My ears were in so much pain. It's similar to, being on an airplane and you get that popping in your ears, but it was so much more intense than that. And they were painful to the touch. If I would stick my fingers in my ears and more pressed down, it would be just this very deep pain. And then eventually, later yesterday, and now into today, it's very clear. It's like I I can consistently like pop them or just like make this weird like clicky sound in them or something, and they're just feeling very clear as if there's some sort of release happening there. So that is the experience that I've been having the past few days. Whether it's connected to anything or not, I certainly believe it, but I just wanted to share that as something that's been happening. So for me, all of this stuff plus the fact that I completed this fast, it's just giving me more confidence about this whole thing, and I just feel really good to keep going with this. Of course, I would anyways, but I just feel good right now. That's all I can say. And for any type 1 diabetics, just in case this video happens to get more than the couple views that I've been getting, just because I'm likely going to title it something water fast in the title, and maybe that'll get more views or something. If this is the first view and you're a type 1 diabetic, please don't expect to do a fast and not have to take insulin. You're going to have to take insulin, and so be careful with that. I've been fasted for 5 years, and it also want to point out, I don't think fasting is required. Okay. For me, it was. For me, it was more on a spiritual level. And I'll just say this, it helps me feel like I'm making progress. Just to be able to do something physically helps me mentally. It just does. And that just suits me. But personally, I don't think it's a requirement because your body wants to regenerate itself. It wants to regenerate the beta cells. You just have to allow it to do it. And that's where the spiritual and emotional side comes in. So that's all I have to say. Hope I don't know if anybody watches this. It looks like it's close to an hour long. If you did, thank you, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks.